Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another recreational programming session with Mr. Zozin. So today is an offline session, right? So because I don't expect it to be like very long or anything. So we, on April Fools, we actually did a stream where I looked into this toy front-end technology called Svelte. Right, so I'm gonna put the link to the session in the description. Right, so somewhere here. And in that session, I actually showed my personal page, right? So which I made when I was bored, or nothing particularly special, right? So this is how it looks like, and it looks like shit when I enable dark reader. So let me quickly turn it off. Yeah, so this is how it's supposed to look like, and nothing special, just like, you know, hacked it together and stuff like that. And I had a little bit of a fun with the CSS, right? So as you can see, there's sort of like a logo, but the non-existing logo is just a square, right? When you hover over it, it turns into a circle. When you click and hold on it, and turns back into the square, but it's rotated and red, right? So, and yeah, so it doesn't do anything particularly special, right? So it acts just basically like this, right? Sort of like a fidget thing, right? So, and the red color is the same as when you activate the link, right? So it, from the perspective of the color scheme, it looks kind of cool, right? So that the colors match and stuff like that. And the reason why it is a green square is because it kind of matches the shape of this bullet, right? So sort of like a shape of this bullet. And in that session, by the way, I said, like very briefly, that I wanted to make it so when I hover over it and it turns into a circle, all of these bullet points also turn into a circle, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet, so I kind of put it on the back burner. But this was at the back of my head the entire time. So it will be kind of cool when I hover over it, all of these things also become circles, and when I hold on it, all of these become red squares, right, rotated and stuff like that. It will be kind of cool. And obviously, people started to submit pull requests. So, and it's kind of interesting, right? So I'm not that proficient in CSS, right? So people submitted like 2 pull requests in here. But they actually managed to implement that. They also managed to implement something super cool, right? For example, when you hover over the link, it turns into a circle, and then when you hold on it, it turns into the diamond, right? I think that's a more correct word to use in here. Right, so, and what's interesting is that all of that is pure CSS. Right, but I don't really understand any of that stuff. For example, like, what the fuck is has? Honestly, I did web development a long time ago, right? Maybe almost a decade ago. So there's a lot of like new stuff came out, and I kind of want to learn that, right? So what I decided to do is to actually do a session where I look through these changes that people submitted to me and just try to understand what exactly those changes do. Right, so, and here is another pull request. They're kind of identical, but I think they kind of do slightly different things. This one does exactly what I said, right? So it actually, you know, when I hover the logo, it turns all of these things into circles, and when you like click on it, it also turns all of them into diamonds. Right, so I want to like go through the changes basically line by line and try to understand what exactly we're doing in here. So that's basically the session. I don't think it's going to go for too long, right? So hence an offline session. Sounds good? Sounds Gucci? Atamaguchi, let's fucking go. Do I even have this repo, you know, cloned in here? I do not. Let's quickly clone this. Let's quickly clone this entire thing. So as you can see, no node, no npm shit or anything. Is just like only CSS and HTML and also some fonts in here. Not a single JS file so far, right? So I'm going to see for how long I'm going to go without any JS files. All right, so let's actually do git clone like so. Let's freaking go. And that should be enough. And the cool thing about this kind of like a static website is just you can open it locally and it just works locally. No web server is required. Even a simple HTTP server is not required in here. So, yep, the way it works, actually, we can take a look at how it works. Funnily enough, I have 2 CSS files in here. The first one is reset CSS. I don't know how many of you remember this kind of stuff. If I understood correctly, these days people don't really bother with this kind of thing. People just use like a pre-made CSS frameworks or things like Tailwind CSS. I never tried Tailwind CSS, though sounds like a pretty cool slope stream to do. Just look into Tailwind CSS. But this thing is actually kind of cool. So yeah, so there's even a website that is sort of dedicated to that. So there's a pretty cool explanation of what this thing does. The goal of the reset style sheet is to reduce the browser inconsistencies in things like default line heights, margins, and font sizes of headings, and so on. Right, so it's actually a pretty old concept. I'm not sure how relevant it is these days. Right, so but on different browsers, like different default parameters are slightly different, and because of that, consistent CSS is kind of difficult to achieve unless you reset everything to just basically 0. And I learned about this concept a long time ago, and I just like used it since then. Maybe it's not relevant, I don't know. It's just sort of like a habit that I have in here. Right, so let me actually put this kind of stuff in the description for anyone who's interested. So anyway, and on top of the reset CSS, right, as you can see, there's like basically every single tag in here, and just set to none or 0 or to 1 or whatever. On top of that, I have main CSS, right? So here's the main CSS, and how do we approach the logo? So logo has a class logo. So, and here is the selector. And essentially it doesn't have any borders. Actually, it is a button. Look at that. This is kind of interesting. So why is that a button? So essentially what I anticipated how people will fidget with this entire logo is that they're going to probably hold, or at least that's what I kind of like to do, and just like move it around and then unpress it, and it rotates back into the green one, right? So this is what I anticipated. Look what's going to happen if you turn this into a div instead of a button. Div. Right, so look what's gonna happen. So you did that, and there is a selection going on. Like, what the fuck? And it's like it breaks the entire flow. It's just like it feels horrible. Like, why am I selected all of a sudden? It's just like, I don't know. And maybe there is a way to not do that. Maybe there is some sort of like a CSS property that prevents you from selecting shit and stuff like that. But the easiest thing I found is just like turn it into a button, right? So button, when you hold in a button, you obviously not selecting anything. Otherwise button is kind of weird, right? So this is not something that you would expect from a button. And to make it not look like a button, what I did is just like I said, borders to none, and there you go. So position absolute is to just basically position it outside of the main sort of content. The main content is essentially sort of like this thing in the middle. I don't even know how to show that. Yeah, there we go. So that's basically how the main content looks like. And the position of the main content is actually relative, but the position of the logo is absolute. And I just put it outside of the main sort of like content in here on the margins somewhere here. That looks kind of horrible, right? So as you can see, it just bulges out in here. But the reason why it bulges out is because I was trying to center it sort of in the center of the title in here. So yeah, so position absolute. The background, I set a specific width and height, 45 by 45. So that's the position. And here is the border radius, right? So the border radius is equal to 0. But if you hover over logo, we instantly set border radius to 50%, which turns the square into a circle. So that's basically what's going on. And when you do active, we set border radius back to 0, and we set rotate. And the reason why it is so smooth is because we set transition to like 200 milliseconds, right? So when you set transition to something and some of the properties of the element change, they don't change instantaneously if you have a transition, they change with the transition that you set in here. I don't remember what all means, honestly. I think all means any property, right? So if I remember correctly, you can set a transition for a specific property, or you can sometimes say, okay, any property, it should change with this, like in this amount of time. And that's why it's so smooth, right? It's not instantaneously becomes a circle. It just sort of like transitions into that. And then here as well, as you can see, it all transitions. We can actually turn it off, right? And if you turn it off, it instantly becomes circle. Instantly becomes circle, instantly becomes diamond, and it just doesn't feel as great, honestly. It looks horrible, like what the fuck is that? But if you add a transition, any modification to the property is actually properly transitioned. So that's basically CSS, that's how it works. And I put transition pretty much on everything in here, especially when it comes to links, right? So as you can see, links, they also transition as you do hover and active and stuff like that. And it's the same amount of transition, 200 milliseconds. But in this specific case, I actually said that only transition for the text decoration color, which is the color of the underline here. Right, so that's basically how it works. It's super simple. You don't need any special frameworks or anything like that to achieve this kind of cool effects. So let's take a look at the pull request. Let's take a look at the pull request and see what exactly they suggest us to do. So it's kind of interesting. So first of all, what they suggest in UL, right, the list of elements, let's find UL, they suggest to get rid of the square, like list style type. So as far as I know, list style type is basically this thing, right? So it's basically this thing. Let me actually put it in here. So sometimes you can actually put, for example, disk in here, right? If I remember correctly, so you can put disk in here, and as you can see, it becomes a circle. So it becomes a disk. Or I don't remember, I think you can put a circle, but it's gonna be basically, yeah, it's literally gonna be a circle without anything in the middle, just a circle, right? And this is not really what we want. So here is square, right? And what they suggest is just to get rid of all of the decoration in here, right? So there is no decoration. As you can see, we got rid of that. Okay, so that means it's going to be probably rendered somehow differently. Let's move on. So now instead of using marker, right? So, and as far as I know, li marker is basically how you style that marker that you put in here, right? So if we put square back, here, I can actually style this entire thing. I can change the color to something else, for example, red. If I want to, it becomes red. So here we specify how we style that specific marker in here that we specified. So that kind of makes sense, right? So, but we got rid of that, so we don't really need that stuff anymore. We don't style the marker anymore. Instead, we're doing before, and this is the first thing that they do not understand. What the fuck is before? So, okay, CSS before. Let's Google it up. So cascading style. So pseudo-element. Okay, so there's a notion of pseudo-elements. All right, in CSS before, error style ein up. What can I have? Where is that in German? Well, I mean, because I have a German VPN, but it's just like, okay, thank you so much. There's an ad, Mozilla, you're running out of money. Holy, this is so fucking funny. Oh my god. Google ads. Mozilla cannot stop sucking off money from Google. This is the funniest shit I've ever seen. So for those who doesn't know, for the longest time, Mozilla was actually living off of the money that Google was paying to them. So the default choice of the search engine was Google. And then after the anti-monopoly case or something like that, they stopped doing that. But now they're putting Google apps on their website. They just can't stop. They are addicted to Google money. They're literally addicted to Google money. This is so fucking funny. Anyway, so whatever. So let's actually read about this kind of thing. And it says in CSS before creates a pseudo element that is the first child of this. I didn't know you can fucking do that. Wait, you can create elements in CSS. So creates a pseudo element that is the first child of the selected element. It is often used to add cosmetic content to an element with a content property it is in. Yo, what the fuck? We're learning shit. What the fuck? This is so fucking cool. Okay, let's go. All right, so we're creating like an element. We're not specifying like what it is, but we set its content to that. Then we set a position absolute, and the reason why we set position absolute so we can locate it outside of the main margins, right? Because the position for the body is relative, right? So yeah, position for the body is relative. So if we set an element within that thing as absolute, we'll be able to set it relative to the body. So that's how it works, if I remember correctly. This is freaking cool. This is freaking based there like that. All right, so then we set width and height, so it makes sense in here. And then we set its background color to the green. This is our green. Top, some sort of like a lame ass units, right? So we're gonna be using based pixels in here. Okay, none of that RAM shit. So, and obviously transition to that. Okay, that's cool. But then, all right. So, and within that thing, we also set position. All right, so let's actually try to to do that. All right, so we get rid of the markers. We don't have any markers anymore, right? So because we don't have any styles, so who fucking cares? So we get that. So then, can you even see what the fuck I'm doing? So let me actually like rearrange some things so you can see what exactly I'm doing. So we create an element that is the child of Lee, right? So its content, we can set some sort of content. We can say your mom. Let's set it so we can learn what exactly does it do. It doesn't really do anything, unfortunately, which is kind of surprising to me. But maybe this is because there's nothing in here. So this is maybe because I put a comma. There you go. You can literally create new elements through CSS. What the fuck? I didn't fucking know that. How does it look like within Inspector? So, oh. Oh, so that's what this : before means that I saw in DevTools. I didn't know about that. That is so freaking cool. So that's what it means, and you can then just style this additional element. Okay. That looks, honestly, that feels like a hack. Can I insert more elements? Like, why can I only insert like one? It's just like, it's kind of weird, right? So can I insert only one? That's kind of bizarre, but anyway, right? So we have some sort of a hack in here, right? So, but we're not going to put any content. But I mean, what if I don't provide the content? Is it really necessary to set the content to nothing? Maybe it's just the default value. Like, why do I even have to provide that? It's a very interesting question. But anyway, so the next thing is a position, and position is absolute. Okay, that's understandable. Then we set width to 7 pixels and height to 7 pixels. And let's see what's gonna happen. And we can't see shit in this mist, honestly. We can't see shit in this mist. And this is probably because we don't have any background color, right? So let's set the background color, and where is the green? So it's 73C blah blah blah. Before, let's put this scheisse in here, and can we see? We still can't see shit in here. Is that because I don't have any content? Do I have to provide the... Aha! That is bizarre. If you don't provide any content, it literally becomes invisible. But if you provide the empty content, it becomes visible. So there is a difference between non-defined content and empty content. Web technology, am I right? Anyways, so... okay, so here they do these lame ass units, so something like top rem. Does it have to be rem? What the fuck is rem, by the way? So I don't even know. So CSS rem units. What the fuck is this shit? Root M. So in CSS, room stands for root M, a unit of measurement that represents the font size of the root element. This means that one rem equal to the font size. Okay, so maybe it's a good measure unit. Okay, I changed my mind on this one. So it's basically half of the height of the font or something like that. But look at that, this motherfucker disappeared when I set the top. Right, but when I set the top to that, it instantly appeared. That's kind of sus, not gonna lie. That's kind of freaking sus. So let's not actually set in here. So then we set left to 17 pixels. Okay, right. Okay, that's cool. But if I set the top half of the rem, it disappears. That is sus. That is absolutely sus. What if I set it like to minus? So I do not freaking understand, Brovsky. So what if I set top to like 1 pixel? It just disappears every time I set top. If I set top to 0, none of that works. That is bizarre. So we also set the transition, right? So obviously, well, that goes without saying, honestly. That goes without saying. I think I know why the fuck it disappears. It's because this thing makes sense. Like using absolute for the trick that I just described only makes sense if you are within the parent that is relative. But our thing is not relative. So what we have to do first, we have to set our li to relative, and only then setting top to anything will probably work, including setting it to 1 pixel, right? So we can set it to 10 pixels. Okay, so this didn't make sense without setting the position of the parent as relative. So that's what it was. So that's what it was. And now if I set the half of the width of the font, it's kind of centered at this thing. Maybe, by the way, I can actually use the, yeah, the same trick for the logo, can't I? So can I set the same trick for the logo? So here I just set it like a 5 pixels. If I just set it like that, yeah, okay. So, and in here, what I mean, it just depends on where the logo is located. Also, since it works for the LI, it may also work for H1, right? So because this thing is inside of H1, we can also at some point use the same trick with before. Yo, this is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. But here it's like a -5, so I'm not really sure if it's going to work. So, yeah, okay, so this thing is really, it's outside of the H1, right? So this, like, applying this trick to this logo is kind of a little bit too much work for the session, so I'm probably not gonna do that. So I'm gonna leave it as it is. But this gives me a cool idea, so I really like that. I really like that. So I'm learning things, right? So I'm just like reviewing the pull request and I'm learning things, and I really like that. All right. So we got in here. So the next thing has. So this is the most cursed like a syntax that I do not understand. Before, I do understand. Okay, so we just learned that before literally creates a new element, like literally straight up creates a new element. And right, so but what the fuck is has? Like I don't know what the fuck is that. So this is before, and this one, we don't need this thing. So maybe I'm going to actually put this stuff in a description, right? So because that's what it is. So it's a before tag. So CSS has. All right, so this is a has selector. German again, please English, please freaking English. Not a Google ad though, not a Google ad. The function has CSS pseudo class represent an element of any of the relative selectors, that are passed as an argument match at least one element when anchored against this element. Okay, what the fuck is this? Relative selectors, all right. So a relative selector is a selector representing an element relative to one or more anchor elements preceded by a combinator. Relative selectors that do not begin with an explicit combinator have an implied descendant combinator. Honestly, like I already said it multiple times, I wish CSS was just like an imperative language with variables and ifs and stuff like that. And I think I said that on one of my sessions, right? So Sojin Daily, and I think that specific session was the like UI in C or something, right? So UI in C, yeah, doing UI in C to piece of the React devs. So I think this is where I said that, because if you just like have an imperative language, you can kind of code all of these concepts yourself, right? So it's just like it like feels like a framework, but I mean whatever. Newly available, so it's a baseline 2023 newly available. Is it safe to depend on that? Well, I suppose it is safe, but it's not greenish, right? So it's usually like greenish, but it's this one is not particularly greenish, so I don't freaking know. So okay, so there is an example in here. Selects H1 heading with a paragraph element that is immediately follows H1 and applies the style to H1. Okay. So selects an H1 heading with a paragraph element that immediately follows. Can you show an HTML example that matches that? All right. So I suppose, so here is H1 and P immediately follows H1. And because of that, that works. Because of that, that works. All right, so that's very interesting. That's very interesting. So we have this thing, and li immediately follows a hover, but it doesn't have that plus in there, right? So it doesn't have that plus. So I'm not really sure if That's what it is. So maybe this is what we need. Itself is not supported in the browser, whatever, so it's not really that interesting. Okay, so what I'm reading in here is that we have li element that maybe not immediately follows, but has an a hovered link inside of it. That's probably what it means, because that's exactly our case. Right, so here's li, and it immediately like has within itself the a link, right? It immediately has the a link, and then we're styling element the before. So that means in here we're referring to this element, right? But with the condition that it has a being hovered in there, and there's also like a question mark in here. And the logo, oh, and, ooh. So I suppose we just like connecting together this thing. So I don't remember what comma means. I think comma means that it's either that, or all of them. CSS selector comma. What comma means? Like list. All right. So selector all the matching nodes. A selector list is comma separate list. When multiple selectors share the same declaration, they can be grouped together. It's just a grouping. Okay. So it's just, it looks a little bit weird. So it's simply grouping of this thing. So it's either that, right, or it's that. So it's just basically the same idea for all of these things. I think I'm starting to understand it. All right. So let's go back to main CSS. All right, so here is the logo when it's hovered, or for this one, it's also applicable like that. Right, so and I suppose, all right, okay, that kind of worked, but I did a fucky wacky. I actually copy pasted it incorrectly. This one has to be active instead, right, instead of being hovered. So when I do that, as you can see, it becomes this, right? It becomes this, and this is honestly. Okay, this is honestly kind of cool, right? So, but it kind of, I'm not sure if it works. Yeah, it kind of does work correctly. It kind of does work correctly. Yeah, I like that. I actually kind of like that. So it's not exactly what I wanted. I want them to be also like affected by this thing. And I think that was done in the previous pull request, right? I think that was done in the previous pull request. I think I fully understand this stuff, right? So I suppose has means that it's inside of this thing. If I put like plus in here, like for the hover as it was suggested in here, I don't really know like why they talk about the plus or anything. It will probably, yeah, it stops working, right? It stopped working for the plus. It stops working for the plus, but here it's inside of it, right? So, so that makes sense. That kind of makes sense. I think I do understand it now. Yeah. Okay, cool. I really like that. So, and there is nothing much I can add in here. So I suppose I'm gonna just like merge this pull request as it is, all right? So because it's kind of looks good to me. All right, but maybe wait a second. So the second pull request kind of overlaps with the previous one. So maybe if we merge them, we're gonna invalidate them. So let's take a look at what we do in here, right? So this is the second pull request that is supposedly does this thing where when you hover over it, these things also become circles, right? So all of them simultaneously. Okay, so there's a 17 changes in here, not that much. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so instead of actually setting the square to none, they just straight up removed it. Okay, so maybe that's also one way to do that. Cool. So here is the similar idea where you use before and you said you introduce a variable in here. I kind of vaguely remember that there were some variables. All right, so there is a size. We use that variable for width and height. Then we do calculate. Okay. Oh, this is such a horrible syntax. Holy fuck. This is absolutely horrible syntax, right? So we introduce some sort of a variable. and we just like compute this stuff and so on and so forth. Then we set the position for the li as relative. That's understandable as well. And I suppose maybe none of that is really important. So they're doing just like something a little bit weird in here. All right, and whatever was done in the previous pull request, I kind of prefer that better. So I suppose the new and interesting thing is this one, right? Where, okay, so Lee has a hover and it's before, and now here is the interesting thing. Body with a logo hovered, and then, so the before element of a lie inside of the body that has a logo hovered. Okay, you can do this kind of a complex queries in CSS. Holy shit! Wait, this is so fucking cool. The new created before element of a lie inside of the body that has logo hovered. That is a complex query. Holy shit. Yo, what the fuck? Yeah, so I kind of... All right. So I need to look into the CSS a little bit closer. I didn't know you can make that complex query. Holy fuck. Okay, so this is hovered, right? So that means now it didn't do shit because I didn't refresh. Oh my god, look at that. So when it's not hovered, it's this. When it's hovered, it's this. Okay, this one is rather interesting, but we don't have any code for the diamond. So, and for the code of the diamond, I think I want to try to, write that code myself. Body has a logo that is active, right? And inside of this, we are referring to li, to the before element of li, right? So, and this is a grouping, so we have to put like a comma in here. And there you go. Holy shit. That is so fucking based. And in here, this is a separate thing. And yeah, so we have to do that a little bit carefully. Right, so this is a separate thing. This is so cool. I really like that. Another interesting thing is that when we do this kind of thing, when we are active, I feel like I want to also make all of the links active as well. Or maybe not, it's kind of hard to tell. What if we make all of the links active? Can I? Okay, so let's do a test. Did I learn anything new from reviewing this pull request? Did I learn anything new? So what I want to refer to, I want to refer to a link, right? So a link. It's not that one. So what the fuck is that? It's not what I want. So just a link, whether it's visited or not visited. So just a link. And it's inside of the body, right? It's inside of the body that has logo active, right? It's inside of the body that has logo active. And for that specific link, I want to make that link active as well. So, and the active link, the thing about the active link is that it has a text decoration color that. So, and I have a feeling that just doing that is going to achieve what I want it to achieve. That was bizarre. Why some of them? Did you see that? All of them started to transition. It's probably because, okay, I see. It's probably because of some of them visited and some of them are not visited. So I have to duplicate this entire thing for the visited ones as well. Right, so I think that's what it is. I know. This is cool. Holy fuck, I really like that. But all of them red, I'm not sure if that's a really cool idea. I really liked when I think they were becoming actually kind of white. What's the white color that we use for when I hover? As you can see, it's white in here, so this entire thing is white. So it's just E. So what if we do something like this? Yeah, because if making all of them red is kind of a little bit aggressive. But this one, there's a little bit of a dissonance. When I do this thing, they become white. But when I do this thing, this one becomes red. So I think it's a little bit of an inconsistency, and because of that, we should probably keep it kind of red, like this. All right, so when I do that, that is so fucking epic. Look at that. Like, it's kind of difficult to see that these bullets became circles. I would love to make them a little bit bigger, honestly. I think we should make them a little bit bigger. So where is all of that stuff? So it's li before, if I'm not mistaken, it's li before. So what about maybe 10 pixels, right? So I think I want them to be a little bit chunkier. 10. Okay, so it kind of makes sense, but what about now 20? So if I do just 20, so does that look... Yeah, so 10 is a little bit too much. What about just 9? Yeah, 9 is a little bit better, right? So 9 is... That looks cool. I really like that. So it's kind of like a... Yeah. This is exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what I wanted. So... thank you so much everyone who submitted pull requests. I usually don't really review pull requests because they're really low quality, but this one are really high quality pull requests. So thank you so much, Les Vix and Dusky Elf. I'm gonna merge everything and I'm gonna properly credit you. So I really like that I managed to learn something new from this pull request, right? So because again, I'm not a web developer, I don't really work with CSS that much, and it's kind of cool that CSS is that powerful, that you can do that complex of a query. Is just like, okay, so you are looking at the additional before element. How do you call this kind of element? So it's so you're looking at the pseudo element of li that is inside of a body that has that element clicked or active. It's a really complex logic, and it's just like, holy fuck, that's kind of cool. Right, I still prefer is if CSS was just like a plain, you know, imperative language where I could just do my things, right? So just, well, let me write some script that you call each frame or something like that. But I suppose that's basically JavaScript at this point. So yeah, that's kind of cool. So I'm probably going to continue playing with these ideas, with the new stuff that I learned. And again, thank you so much, Lesvik and Dusk Elfie, for submitting all this stuff. All right, that's it for today. Thanks everyone who's watching me right now. I really appreciate that. Have a good one, and I see you all on the next recreation programming session with Mr. Azuzin. I love you all. Mwah.